Hi, everybody, and welcome to another F Word. It's a filmed podcast that is designed to inspire a more vibrant, wealthy, and healthier 50-plus lifestyle. I am your host, Vital Germain. I'm 56 years old. I feel good, and I look even better. Don't hate, because you can too. Let's dive right in with my next guest. This is a wonderful human being. Shows resilience, resolve, character. Toni, welcome to another F Word. How are you feeling? How are you feeling, Toni?
It's so good to be here.
The reason why I ask how you're feeling, because your journey of resilience and overcoming, I want to dive right in and start. You were recently diagnosed with cancer. What does that feel like? First of all, Toni, how old are you?
66.
66.
10 years older than
you have to think about it for a second there. 66
Yeah.
years old. You've gone through some things. Cancer is a different story. When you are initially, by the way, first of all, how long ago was it that you were diagnosed with cancer, and what type of cancer were you diagnosed with?
Okay, 2020 has been shot the entire year. January the 7th, I was diagnosed, and as you know, March became COVID, so it's been a double quarantine. And I have had HER2 breast cancer.
Oh.
And because of the HER2 diagnosis too, that just made it a little more aggressive.
And so, put us into your mind, into your heart. You are told, Toni, you have cancer. With all your wisdom and all your resilience, that's got to be a knockout punch. How do you deal with that? How do you handle that?
You know, some things that I've experienced in my life, denial works. You can just
Yeah.
pretend for a long time that it's not happening, but cancer, you have to wake up quickly and get involved or it will kill you. Um, I did know that I could fight it. The hardest part was that it sounded like it was even worse than it was in the
Yeah.
beginning. I was actually told I was stage 4. And I don't think I ever really was. That's because it was in my lymph nodes as
Oh.
well. And since then, between the chemo, which was horrible, and surgery, which was easier than chemo.
Oh, the surgery is
uh,
easier.
yeah,
Wow.
I told my surgeon that I think that she just gives us chemo so that we'll look forward to the surgery. I mean, it's easier. But they got it. They believe they've got it. I still had to take radiation. I just finished that. So if I look like I'm always tearing up, it's the chemo. And lately the radiation, it just wreaks havoc with my head and nails and hair and everything else.
But I
But
love.
I feel very confident that we've got it. And I go through a series of several more months of every 3 weeks with special targeted drugs for the HER2 part of the.
I want to come back to the cancer issue, but you said something that I want to tie into a part of your journey. You mentioned the word denial. You have gone through denial exercises, denial activities, denial behaviors. You were at one point an alcoholic. How do you get into alcoholism? And then maybe more importantly, how did you get out of it? I know that you recently went through some rehab, which has got to be so intense, but as an elderly person of 66 years old, it's not necessarily old, but as a more mature person in the second chapter of our lives, how do you find the fortitude to be like, you know what, I'm going to fight this animal. It's finally time. I'm going to overcome this shit. How do you do that?
You just sort of hit the nail on the head. It took a lot of years for me to see it, the disease, the alcoholism, addiction, as the animal, as the monster. I was the monster. I was bad
Oh,
because I couldn't control this. And I also felt that I was powerless because I was raised by nothing but alcoholics, addicts, and everyone pretty much had mental illness of some sort, from
yeah.
schizophrenia to whatever. And I thought, well, maybe it's just a learned behavior. But if it's a learned behavior, you can find ways to put that aside, replace it with something else that works for you. With addiction, that's not necessarily true. Throughout the years, I've been back and forth. Denial is a fantastic place. I don't think I'd be alive today if I couldn't sometimes just shut it down and say, oh, heck, it's fine, it'll go away. But as I've gotten older, I would say that my journey through addiction has gotten easier, but only because I don't blame myself anymore and I won't let other people shame me. A
So
lot of my journey has been about avoiding shame.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. But so in getting wiser with that maturity, there's obviously a shift in thinking. There's a shift in your mindset. Did it become easier to address the issue with age and wisdom, or was it you just simply had to dig even deeper because you realized that, okay, time is maybe sort of running out, so to speak. I've got to get my stuff together. If I don't do it now, I may. Which of the two was it? Was it a combination?
Oh, certainly it was a combination, but as you know from the work that you and I have done together throughout the years, where you were working on a certain book and I was working on a book, and they were kind of kind of coinciding with each other a little bit. I know I called you a couple of times saying I can't do this
Yeah.
because when you're doing a memoir, it brings. I had written these stories for years, 20, 30 years. I'd write a story about this one thing, and all of a sudden I was hooking them all together and going over them and over them and over them, and I thought I was going to go insane. The book got written, as you know, it got published, and I know you understand this. It was the most
Yes.
cathartic thing I've ever done in my life. I that shame I was talking about, I have no shame anymore. That someone can say, I know your mom was a town drunk. I know you're white trash from Alabama. Whatever they say, I say, I don't care. It's in a book. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's no longer a secret, and secrets kill.
So you did write a memoir that, by the way, is incredibly powerful. It's raw, it's courageous, it's vulnerable, it's heart-wrenching, yet it's filled with hope and empowerment. You said that for you it was a part of the journey of sort of maybe healing or owning your story. Can you dig deeper into that? What value did it have for you to, first of all, exercise those demons, but then share it with the world?
Exercising the demons, as you put it so aptly, was vital. I couldn't get from there to there without clearing that space. It was already occupied with all of this bull, you know what. But that wasn't nearly as powerful. I thought that was the most powerful thing I'd ever done. And it would always be the most powerful thing I'd ever done is getting through that and writing the book. But actually, it was getting it published, even though I did it myself and got it out there, but it's on Amazon. I did the audio book, which was even more cathartic and hard.
Yeah.
But I actually read in 3 days in a studio the entire book in a booth. And at the end of every day, Walt would have to take me back to the hotel and I'd go to bed. It just wore me out. But
I want to
getting
quickly
that
touch
book out
into
there was the
Walter.
best.
Before I
Huh?
we talk about Walter, your partner, your life partner. Where can people find this amazing book and the recent book you just wrote? Where can people find those books? What are they called? Where can we find them?
Alabama Blue is my memoir. I was raised in a cotton mill village in Opelika, Alabama, called Pepperell Mill Village. And it needed to get out of me and out into the world. I'm so glad it's there. It's on Amazon. You can also look up the reviews on Goodreads and stuff. It's been well received. I'm very proud of it. It's not going to make me rich, but the next one will.
Well, it maybe won't make you rich, but there is a wealth in that book, and the wealth that comes with owning a story and sharing it is priceless. What is the book? What is the book about? What have you overcome in your childhood that people should know and can be inspired by? The book, from what I remember you shared, there was abuse, there was emotional, I'm going to say emotional torture. Tell us a little bit more about your childhood and what inspired you to have to write this book and share it with other people beyond your own cathartic experience. What's the book about in a nutshell, really?
In a nutshell, um, bat ass crazy. I had a nonsensical childhood to try, and when you're raised by alcoholics, addicts, my grandfather was schizophrenic, my mother was anorexic, my grandmother was OCD. It was just a sad, dysfunctional society. They didn't read books. It was a lot of illiteracy. And when you're raised there, don't try to figure it out. There'll never be an answer that you understand. It's nonsensical. I thought that the rest of the world lived like we lived.
Yeah.
I don't know when exactly, though. Somewhere along the line, I started to figure out that possibly there was something else somewhere. Um, I had to get out of Alabama. And a lot of people don't feel that way. I understand a lot of people love Alabama. They loved growing up in the Mill Village, but my experience was not good at all. My mother was an alcoholic. And, you
Yeah.
know, a child of an alcoholic and addict and, or mental person with mental illness, my full-time job, my whole childhood, I was working. I was working on staying alive long enough to get a life. You know, there wasn't anything about childhood. I don't remember anything about Christmas, or I never got a first bike. There were no science projects. You know, it was just hold on, survive, make it through the next move and the next move and the next husband. Mama married 7 times. She
Wow.
was trying real hard to get out of the village herself, but she never made it. Yeah.
You found love later in life. You mentioned Walter. Who is Walter to you, and how has he helped you on your journey? Because there are two stories. There's your story dealing with your demons, but there's also the person on the receiving end who can either be supportive and understanding or simply not be there for you and make it even worse. So who is Walter? How has he helped you? How did you find love? We want the dirt. We want to know it all.
You know, you were just kind of gurgling and breaking up a little bit. I heard the
I'll
first part
repeat the
about Walter.
question.
The latter part, it wasn't clear.
So you mentioned Walter, your life partner, somebody you met later on in life. Oh, you still can't hear me? Then you know what? We're going to take a quick break. We're going to try and figure out this technical issue. You know what? I love Zoom. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Toni? Perfect.
Okay.
Can you still hear me a little bit now? I've got my producer trying to fix the technical issue.
Little bit.
It could be just a Zoom issue. Toni, Walter. Can you hear me say Walter, your life partner?
Yes.
Who is
Yes.
Walter?
Okay. Walter is the greatest thing that ever happened to me besides sliced bread. No, don't tell him that I said that. We've been together 17 years, and I wouldn't have given us 17 minutes. Um, I was so cynical. I was just turning 50. I was so cynical at that point that I would never be in a healthy relationship, a permanent relationship. My life had been about temporary. Mama's husbands were temporary, and all my siblings were actually temporary, and um, every job, every situation, it was just temporary, every home. And then I met Walter, and believe it or not, it was through an online dating thing. But I
Yeah.
was only using it to fill time during a rough job that I was on, that I had to be on this job a lot. And my last ad that I put on to this site was titled, "I wouldn't date a man that would answer my ad." And I was, it was from Groucho Marx, and I had been getting a lot of youngsters. You know, I want you to teach me how to be a man, and a lot of liars.
How
You know,
you
I don't
doing?
smoke, huh?
I said, how you doing? They want to teach you how. They want you to teach them how to be a man. Hey.
Oh, that's true. But Walter got a hold of me and said, "Well, you've thrown down the gauntlet now. You have to go out with me." And he sent me a lot of information about himself, but he's an engineer. He's well educated. He's
Yeah.
successful. He's intelligent. He's articulate. I wrote him back immediately and said, "Well, you just sound wonderful, but we're too different. You're Dockers and loafers, and I'm jeans and moccasins.
Yeah.
It would never work." And he wrote back, and he took my heart right then when he said, "Toni, those are just clothes. It's not important."
Those are
We got
just
together.
clothes. So he wanted to get to know you, the essence of who you are, not the shell, the soul, the essence of your spirit, of your character. So what qualities, other than what you've just said, but has enabled you to maintain the relationship? Is it kindness? Is it respect for each other? Is it listening? What are those qualities that have enabled you to maintain your relationship with Walter?
The desire to finally be successful, I would say. It's the same reason I finally went back to school at 60. I didn't want to get to the end of my life and say there were so many things that I wanted or I deserved. The healing that I was getting, even though I was going through a hard time with writing the book when I met Walter, but the healing that I was getting from it was very good for me.
Yeah.
It was the main thing was I was achieving some level of self-esteem, self-worth, something that I didn't have. I used to joke about I didn't have a quarter's worth of it. You know, I didn't have
Yeah.
a dime's worth of it. And today I've got a whole drawer full of change. You know, I've got plenty. And it comes and goes. It's not easy to hold on to sometimes when we're raised so accustomed to believing that you weren't relevant, that you weren't visible. And to remain visible, I had to at least get to the point that I thought I deserved visibility. I thought I deserved love, and I thought I deserved education. And those two things are the hardest stuff I've ever done. I could stay drunk. That's easy. I can run away from my feelings. That's denial. But to stay and fight for the relationship and stay and try to learn things when you were told that you were mentally retarded when you were a child. I know that's an inappropriate term today, but that is what the lady in the church said. That poor thing, she's mentally retarded, you know?
This show is not about being politically correct. It's about just being raw and authentic with your expression. What you just said is maybe not politically correct. It's not offensive. I think people will relate to where you're coming from. So you've had this great journey with Walter. You've overcome a lot of obstacles. Toni, do you have any regrets? Things you would have done differently, things you should have, would have, could have done? Things you could have done more of? Any regrets?
I believe that you're still breaking up quite
Regrets.
a bit, but I believe you just asked me, are there things that I should have, would have, could have done,
Yeah.
should have done? Oh, of course. I could probably, given time, make a list of hundreds. I think one of the things I regret the most is not being a better friend. I know we're good friends, but throughout the years, there's been people that meant so much to me. And I was so wrapped up in my own world and in my own pain, and I was not there for them. And I look back on some of those relationships. This one girlfriend of mine that's here in this area, and it breaks my heart because I know that I let those relationships go. I let them go because it would take work. Like I said, when I got to Walt and to school, I was finally able to and realize that I had to do the work.
Yeah.
I would never get to the other side without putting in the time. But I didn't know how to do that as a friend until the last 15 years or so.
Well, given you've been through a lot, it's not
changes.
always easy to give when we are on life support, when we're in survival mode. It's not easy to give. But now that you've reached this point in your life, you are a very kind, giving human being. And so I value our friendship deeply because your courage inspires, and I've watched you touch the hearts of many. I don't want to get too sentimental. I want to quickly change up the speed. I've got a series of quick questions to ask you. Hopefully technology allows us to continue this interview. Toni, what did you want to be when you were 7 years old? That was 59 years ago. What did you want to be when you were 7 years old?
Yeah.
Did you know what you wanted to be when you were 7 years old?
What
did you
what
want
did
to
I
be?
want to be then?
Yes, when you were 7. When you were 7.
Well, I really, you know, I've lived long enough, I've read enough books, I've had enough friends to have heard all these wonderful stories, and I want to give you one. I don't have it. All I had and all I wanted when I was 7 and newly born and 12 and 15 was to be good enough to be loved, to be loved. And I wasn't. Not where I was. I was never good enough. I was never right. I was always disturbed and wrong and bad, and I believed it. And I believed that if I could just be good enough,
Yeah.
that I would fix not just the feelings that I needed to fix, but I'd fix mom, I'd fix the mill village, I'd fix the rednecks, I'd fix the literacy. And all I had to do was be good. And all of this was on my shoulders. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I told somebody I had both my knees replaced, uh, about 15 years ago. And they said, "How did a young woman like you?" And I said, "Well, I've been carrying the world for
Yeah.
for a lifetime. You wear out your legs for that, but you wear out your heart."
But I love how
And
you maintain enthusiasm through humor, a key component. Two more quick questions, maybe three. What is your favorite sound?
besides your voice,
Ah, is it the deep warmth? Is it the accent?
you are. I love your voice.
Thank you.
But I have noticed during COVID and cancer and chemo, I mean, I feel like I've just been locked out of everywhere because I have.
Yeah.
I miss my friends' laughter.
Ah,
It's not the same on the phone or on the
no.
computer. It's just not.
Yeah, that
I want to hear
one-on-one.
them laugh.
Yeah, laughter, one of my favorite sounds. My favorite sound is hearing children
Yes,
laugh. So I love that. All right, a little bit deeper, Tony.
yes.
What is Tony's favorite curse word?
You know what my favorite sound would be, if I ever got to hear it, would be for an agent to say, "Miss Pacini, I love your book. Here's a boatload of money. I want it, and I want to publish it and turn it into a movie." Now, when I hear that, I will replace the laughter, at least temporarily.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So I don't know if you were able to hear that next question about your favorite curse word. Do you have a favorite curse word? When you're angry, frustrated, pissed off, what's that word that you're like, you know what?
Well, the one I use the most is fuck.
Yeah.
I think in our society today, it's just, yeah. But the one, well, I said the one I use the most, that's when there's, especially if there's negative emotion or somebody's cutting me
Yes.
off on the road. But other than that, and it's not really a curse word, but holy crap comes
Holy
out of my
crap.
mouth
Holy
constantly. Holy
crap.
crap.
Yeah.
Snap on a cracker, holy crap.
All right, Tony, final question. Final question. You've gone through this amazing, inspirational, challenging, heart-wrenching journey. You reach the end, and it's time to turn off that light. What do you want people to say about Toni? That Toni, she was, what do you want your legacy to be?
There was a time that I really thought if I had a better education and money and a nice car and better clothes, that things would be okay. But none of that has mattered. I do have a better education. I do have more money. I do have a nice car and I have better clothes. But what I want to believe is that people um, say about me that they respected me, that I was there was a gentleman, and I won't get into the long-term story, and it is in my book, but I worked as a hat check girl in Albany, New York, at a big fancy restaurant when I was 17 because I ran away from Alabama. I was pregnant, and I was giving my son away, but I worked in the restaurant until I was too big, and they made me the hat check girl. And this older man started talking to me and telling me, "Why don't you bring a book?" Blah blah blah. And I thought he was hitting on me because no one had ever been interested in what's between my ears. It's always been about what's between my legs. And I honestly thought this
Yeah.
old man was trying to get me in bed or something. But he brought me a book and he said, "I just want you to read this one story. If you don't like it, I won't ask you to read anything else." And it was Hop Frog by Edgar Allan Poe. It's also known as the Eight Chained Orangutans.
Yeah.
And he knew just what to give me because it was about the poor little Thumbelina type gal and the little dwarf man, and they were abused sorely, and he won. They won.
They
And I
won.
was like, "Oh my God, oh, what a story." And the next night, he wanted me to tell him all about it. And he brought me books then from God, Thoreau. I mean, if it hadn't been for him, I did not I did not have a clue that I had a brain. I want one person on this planet to say, in my remembrance of me, that I made a difference in their life. And you know, that man, he never knew. Um, but I don't think I would have made it anywhere if I hadn't have found out I had a brain. And that other people, that there were people, I told you when we started that the chemo had made my eyes water like this. And even though I'm off of it, it could go on for years from what I understand. So now I'm trying to pretend that it's the chemo, but it's not. You're getting teary. So I'm sorry if I'm bad, but I'm like this 24/7 now, and I can't do anything about it until I finish the treatments. But it's just what it is. You know, that's the way life is too. If your hair falls out, you just don't have hair. If your eyes are running, your eyes are running.
Yeah.
You can. That's not important.
I might have
It's not
trouble.
important.
I might have trouble embracing my hair falling out. I'm not ready yet. I feel blessed that at 56, I've still got a relatively full head of hair. Haven't gone through chemo and all those things. But to your major point there, Toni, you have made a difference. You have made a massive difference to the people that I see you interact with. I know that people who read your book feel inspired and feel empowered. You will have left a very powerful legacy, and for that, I thank you for sharing your story. I thank you for being here with me. I thank you for our viewers who will be deeply touched by what you had to share. Toni Pacini, it's been a pleasure. Just a quick reminder, please go out, find her books, Alabama Blue, and the new book is called, Toni, quick reminder, what's the new book called?
Alabama Blue. It's
Yep.
on Amazon, and you can get it in Kindle paperback, or you can get the audio book through Audible.
And the audio book is absolutely delightful with this amazing, warm, Southern accent. Toni Pacini, it's been an absolute pleasure. God bless. Take care. Well, God bless. Just be blessed in every way that you have been and that you keep doing to the world. Take care, Toni. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.